What's going on, guys, and welcome to the first episode of PPV Rewind. And this week we will talk about Summerslam 2016. Each week on the PPV Rewind show, we will discuss a past pay-per-view that has been a huge success for WWE as a whole. So let's get right into it. We're going to focus on 5 matches from the Summerslam 2016 card. And first off, we're going to talk about Enzo and Cass versus Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. Now, just about a month before last year's SummerSlam, the friendship of Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens formed. And from then on, that was the best segment and best part of Monday Night Raw for a good 6 to 7 months. So this match at SummerSlam was the birth of all the momentum that Jericho and Owens were able to gain with the fans as a tag team. The match in and of itself was very good. It was Enzo and Cass are from the Brooklyn area. Enzo is from Jersey, and Big Cass is from Brooklyn. So this was a very emotional match for the fans and for the wrestlers involved, and in the end, the finish was incredible. It was a pop-up powerbomb attempt by Kevin Owens that resulted into a codebreaker by Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho pinned Enzo Amore for the win, and it was a big shock factor because most fans, including us, me and my brother were both in attendance that night, and we were fully expecting an Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy win just because of the hometown glory they would have received from the fans, but WWE decided to go the route of giving the newly formed tag team of Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens the win, and it was the best decision they could have made because those two took off from there and carried Monday Night Raw for the better part of 6 months. So the second match we're going to talk about is the Raw Women's Championship match, which featured Sasha Banks and Charlotte. Now, I believe it was 2 weeks prior to this event, Sasha Banks on the first Monday Night Raw after the WWE draft, Sasha Banks was able to capture the Women's Championship from Charlotte in shocking fashion, and the rematch was set for SummerSlam. Now, this match, very back and forth match. These two have known each other since their NXT days, so they know how to have a good match with one another. And fans weren't really expecting a Charlotte Flair win here. So when the match was over, after Charlotte rolled Sasha Banks up when Banks was going for the bank statement, it was a real shock factor, which is key to most good matches. The shock factor sends the fans home either really happy or really just overall shocked at the outcome of the match. And Sasha Banks came up short against Charlotte in this match, and it set up another great run between the two for the next 3 to 4 months to follow. They had main evented Hell in a Cell, main evented countless Raws against each other. So these two had great chemistry, and it just only at SummerSlam last year it showed in their match. So we're going to move on to the third match we're going to talk about, which is AJ Styles versus John Cena. Now, this past year in WWE was a great year overall, but if you're going to talk about great matches, this was at the top of the list on many people's list of match of the years. It was the second one-on-one match between the two, John Cena and AJ Styles, and they outdid their performance at Money in the Bank. It was one of the best matches I've ever watched. And I've seen very few matches compared to some people in person, and this was easily the best match I've ever seen in person. These two are just two of the hardest working people in the company, and they know how to put on a good match when it matters, especially on a big stage like SummerSlam. Fans were on the edge of their seats the entire match. It was near fall after near fall. AJ Styles had the calf crusher locked in at one point. Cena was able to flip out of it into an STF, springboard Hurricanrana off the top ropes. It was an unbelievable match that the ending was the best part, in my opinion, with AJ Styles picking up the win. He was able to overcome the avalanche attitude adjustment off the top rope, which, again, shock factor. No one ever kicks out of that off the top rope. And AJ Styles eventually countered the AA into the Styles Clash, and then resulting to a phenomenal forearm. And he was able to pick up the win here. And it kind of launched AJ Styles into the stratosphere. And for that, the better part of 6 months after that, until the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, AJ Styles was unbeatable. He won the WWE Championship from Dean Ambrose the next month at the Backlash pay-per-view, and just took off from there, defending his title night in and night out, and just being the top guy on SmackDown Live after beating the face that runs the place in John Cena. So this was definitely the best match on the Summerslam card from last year and of 2016 overall, in our opinion. So we're going to move on to the fourth match now, and that's going to be Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship, the inaugural Universal Champion. Now, this was a decent match. We're only featuring it here because it was the debut of the Universal Championship, so it's kind of in the history of WWE. It's going to be looked at as a big deal because it introduced a brand new championship that's never been seen before between two of the top guys in the company. So they were able to put on a great match because obviously they've been there before. Both Finn Balor and Seth Rollins have been in championship matches before and know what it takes to put on a good match. And it was the first time that the WWE main roster came witness to the Demon King of Finn Balor, which, being there in person, seeing that entrance, it was breathtaking. It was amazing. I had chills the whole way. Fans were so into it. It couldn't get any better than that moment right there. And then a little bit into the match, obviously, as we're all aware, Finn Balor's injury occurred with his shoulder, and that hurts this match a little bit because you could only wonder if Finn was at 100% through the entire match. The match could have been so much better, but he put the company on his back to finish that match and was able to, pick up the biggest win of his career up until that point and become the first ever Universal Champion by hitting the coup de grace on Seth Rollins. Now, after the night after, Finn Balor had to relinquish the title, which canceled out all the momentum he had gained in that win from SummerSlam, but it just showed that WWE is now on the mindset of elevating new stars, as we've seen with Shinsuke Nakamura. He's going to have a match for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam now, kind of similar to how Finn Balor made his mediocre rise to the main event at last year's SummerSlam. Him and Shinsuke Nakamura followed very similar paths since both have come to WWE. So this was definitely one of the highlights of the night, and it could have been better match overall, but just the introduction of the Universal Championship and appointing Finn Balor as the man of the future was definitely gave it enough to make our list for highlights of the night. And then the last point we want to talk about, obviously, the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton. Now, this wasn't on our list because it was good. Overall, it wasn't a good match. It was just a very physical, it was kind of like a UFC fight for most of it because WWE wanted to capitalize on the momentum that Brock Lesnar captured from his UFC 200 victory over Mark Hunt and just make it a very physical, very gruesome match between him and Randy Orton. So we saw Brock Lesnar throw Randy Orton through a table. We saw Randy Orton RKO Brock Lesnar on a table. We saw, I believe, 10 German suplexes from Brock Lesnar to Randy Orton. I've lost track after, I think, 8. And we saw Randy Orton kick out of an F5, which resulted in Lesnar going ballistic, taking the gloves off, and hitting Randy Orton with a vicious elbow, opening him up. The most blood I've ever seen in WWE pouring out of Randy Orton's head. And the official had no choice but to call for the bell and declare Brock Lesnar the winner by TKO. Now, the highlight of this match overall was after when Shane McMahon made his way down to the ring and was trying to defend Randy Orton, who was obviously his superstar on SmackDown Live, so he wanted to make sure he could protect his talent. And Brock Lesnar wouldn't let him, so eventually Brock Lesnar just said, F it, and picked Shane McMahon up and F5'd him right through the ring, and that was planting the seeds for a potential match between the two later on down the road, but Brock Lesnar later declined an opportunity to have a match with Shane McMahon. But overall, the SummerSlam 2016 card was one of the better pay-per-views of 2016 after going through all the matches, even the matches we didn't talk about, such as The Miz versus Apollo Crews, a very forgetful match, and The New Day versus The Club. We gave each match a grade, and we came up with an overall grade for this SummerSlam 2016 is a 6.2. Now, you would think that we would only want to talk about pay-per-views that are like 9s and 8s, but this pay-per-view had a lot of, with all the bad that came with this pay-per-view, like I mentioned, the Miz versus Apollo Crews match is a very forgetful match. The Roman Reigns Rusev U.S. title match that didn't even happen because both men brawled through the entire arena. There was a lot of good that came out of it. As we've mentioned, all the 5 points we made, Finn Balor becoming Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton putting on a bar fight, the birth of the Kevin Owens-Chris Jericho friendship, Sasha Banks and Charlotte having another match of the year for the Divas division, and the match of the year, John Cena versus AJ Styles. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of PPV Rewind. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you could like, share, and subscribe, we really appreciate it. We love all the support we're getting, and we really appreciate you guys. And tomorrow we're going to have a new video, as we've had all week. Tomorrow is going to be focused on top superstar moments, so I think you guys are really going to like that. I think we're going to be focusing on the Raw General Manager, Kurt Angle, so there's a lot of funny moments in his career that we could talk about. So thank you guys again for watching. Just like, share, and subscribe as always, and we will see you next time.